Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Ayşe Süberker. The United States has removed Turkey from the F-35 fighter jet program. The move comes in response to Turkey's purchase of the Russian missile defense system, the S-400. The first shipment of the S-400s to Turkey have already been completed, and Turkey expects the system to be fully deployed by April next year. The U.S. is also considering further sanctions on Turkey over the issue, although President Donald Trump has reportedly expressed reluctance in this regard. Turkey has said that removing it from the F-35 program will adversely affect its relations with the longtime NATO ally, and that it will retaliate if the U.S. imposes any sanctions. The S-400s are not the only trouble spot in the relations between Turkey and the U.S. Turkey has also expressed its dissatisfaction over the U.S. proposal on the establishment of a safe zone in Syria. Other outstanding issues include the refusal of the U.S. to extradite FETÖ leader Fethullah Gülen. To discuss this latest escalation of tensions between the two countries, I'm joined by Hasan Unal, who is the head of Political Science and International Relations Department at Maltepe University, and Tudor, Onea, who is an assistant professor of international relations at Bilkent University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you here. President Trump seems he doesn't want Turkey to be penalized because of the acquisition of S-400 missile systems, and he tries to convince his senators to find a way out of this deadlock. So, Hasan, what is next for Turkey-U.S. relations?
Well, it's anybody's guess, basically. There was a lot of guesswork about the purchase of S-400 missiles is going to leave the relations between the two countries. Where is it going to take it? The delivery of the S-400 missiles hasn't put a straight end to the guesswork. Now, we are basically now speculating as to what the United States is going to do, what the United States is going to come up with. It all depends on how Trump himself, because we can't talk about a Trump administration. There is quite a divided administration in terms of their response to what Turkey's purchase of S-400 missiles. Basically, you have hawkish ones in the administration who want to penalize Turkey as much as they could. On the other hand, Trump in particular says...
So there are mixed messages coming from the U.S.
Exactly. And then we are basically speculating under the circumstances as to what might happen, what would be the next. Well, the next would depend largely what attitude the United States is going to come up with. And a few days ago, when Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu made a statement, he indicated that even whether Turkey actually was cut off from the F-35 planes construction and all that program remains to be seen because it hasn't become officialized.
So, Tudor, there's much of a talking about the content of possible sanctions, but don't you think Turkey's removal from the F-35 program is already a sanction because Turkey invested in billions of dollars, now it's kicked out of it?
Yes, if it will go through. And this is still something that we have to see, because these sanctions actually can be rolled back. The thing is, bargaining is still going on between the two sides, and it will probably continue until the Russian system, the S-400s, become operational, which will happen next year. But until then, nothing is
certain.
No, well, I mean, it's not written down in stone, so things can still change.
So you say Turkey may come back to the F-35 program?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, at least from the perspective of the United States, this is something that is still in the game. Lindsey Graham has recently offered such a possibility. He effectively contacted the Turkish foreign minister, essentially transmitting this was an informal endeavor, saying that effectively if Turkey does not deploy the system that it has acquired, although of course, I mean, he didn't say what Turkey should do with it, because in that eventuality, Turkey might end up with two missile defense systems.
So,
well, so the possibility is that if Turkey doesn't deploy it, then of course these sanctions will simply, well, they will cease to apply.
So Hasan, if F-35 issue is not resolved in Turkey's interests, can we say that Turkey is forced to search for alternatives?
Well, Turkey has already indicated more than once that it has quite a few options about the next generation warplanes, what it is going to be. It can produce its own. It has actually made investment in that direction. It can also cooperate with the Russians in the production of the Sukhoi 57 planes, because the Russian side has been indicating that they are ready to co-produce the planes, even in Ankara, basically in terms of technology transfer and other important issues. They are very much conducive to Turkey's expectations, if you like.
So how will this affect Turkey's relations with NATO if Ankara cooperates with Russia on the next generation S-500 missile systems? And on the other hand, we know that our neighbor Greece already has S-300 missile systems, and back then NATO did not object to that. What do you make of it?
Well, not only Greece, actually. As far as I know, in addition to Greece, Slovakia and Bulgaria also have the same S-300 missile systems. And don't forget, it's been the United States which has been making all these difficulties for Turkey about this purchase of S-400 missiles, not NATO. The messages coming from NATO is being quite different. So NATO says basically
Turkey is a sovereign state and it can acquire whatever it wants.
It can purchase whatever it wants to, and or it can actually produce its own. Though they indicate, well, it might be better if you don't.
So Tudor, do you think is there a possibility of Turkey not activating S-400s?
Yes. Yes,
there
very
is.
much, very much so. I mean, this is because you have to understand that this has, of course, a technological component, but it also has a political one, and this has to be seen in regards to a bigger picture. The bigger picture being the outstanding differences that exist between Turkey and the United States, and this being used as effectively an issue by Turkey to make the United States give ground on these other differences that exist in the relation. Should these differences go away or things improve, then of course Turkey might consider giving in on this particular option. It is not something that, again, it's not something that is written in stone.
So Turkey is open to new proposals.
Yes, and it wouldn't be the first missile defense system that Turkey would cancel, although this time it has acquired it. But in 2013, there was a lot of discussion about Turkey acquiring a Chinese missile, the HQ-9, which is effectively, pretty much the Chinese version of the S-300. And that fell through 2 years afterwards.
Would you like me to say it? Well, the question is not to deploy these missiles is not an easy option for Turkey, because Turkey needs these missiles. What Turkey can do in return, in order to appease United States concerns, is that it can actually buy Patriot missiles in addition to the S-400s.
As Turkey says, its national security is at stake. The US and Turkey disagree on various issues as well, like Syria.
That's very good.
I mean, especially with the east of the Euphrates, where the terror organization YPG is holed up and is supported by the United Nations. What do you make of it, Tudor?
Well, again, I think, and this sort of links to what we have discussed previously, in the terms of Turkey needing a missile program of its own. This is something that has to happen. The question is, will this particular missile serve its purpose, or is it to some extent overkill because of the political complications, and also because it is a little bit technologically too sophisticated? It would be the type of missile you would want to have in order to be state-of-the-art, in order to combat the best that exists out there. But the most likely adversary that you're likely to have is a non-state actor that will not have the means to field something like this, which means that, if you have capabilities that really exceed the threats, it might be a little bit wasteful, particularly since in this particular context, you also have to take into account political costs. And this is the relation with NATO. The fact that, of course, I mean, this missile, any missile that Turkey acquires would need NATO radars and NATO systems in order for it to be functional. And unfortunately, the way things work, this is not a mix and match.
Yeah. So, Hasan,
these missiles are not going to be integrated into the NATO defense system. We have a huge army. Not all parts of the army and all the units are integrated into the NATO system, and not all of them are assigned to NATO. Okay, and this is going to basically function standalone. Okay, it's going to be totally under Turkish control, no Russian interference with that, and it's going to basically as function standalone.
Given the current developments, do you believe that Turkey and US can reach an agreement over northern Syria?
Well, they would have to. Otherwise, I would think very bad things might come out of all that, because I suppose we are now, the two countries have an enormous mistrust now between the two. And this cannot go on like that. You are very reliable allies on the one hand, and you keep saying that. And then on the other hand, the United States is acting in connivance with a terrorist organization, which is outlawed not only by Turkey, but also by the United States. And then the United States side is been supplying that terrorist organization, and it's been basically contacting that terrorist organization at the highest levels possible, or diplomatically as well as militarily. This cannot go on.
All right, I'm afraid we have to leave it here, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.